Sanchez is on the hot seat, and honestly, I don't even see the Jets making it to the bye week without plugging in Tim Tebow. Their bye week is in a few weeks, but I mentioned statistically the Jets are in about a similar situation as the Broncos. The Jets are nearly dead last in defense. Now, they're giving up 27 points per game, and they're giving up a dreadful amount of yards through the air. And we saw in that game against the Niners, they could not stop an elite offense. Same with the Steelers in Week 2. The New York Jets, despite being 500 and despite being tied for the lead in that division, the New York Jets are certainly a team going backwards. And the Mark Sanchez at the quarterback position, that's not what's going to get you to the promised land. And right now, the best thing is, of course, not putting Colin Clemens. Are you kidding me? He's struggled in his years with the Jets. You put in Tim Tebow, you give him a spark, and the team will rally, guaranteed. The New York Jets would be than Tebow in the next few weeks.
Now, what do you think? Because, big injury happened, and he's out for the season. Santonio Holmes, their number one weapon in the wide receiver position. What do you think of that? Do you think that this really affects the Jets?
Boy, this absolutely affects the Jets because they do not have a number 2 receiver. Other than Santonio Holmes, their receiving core was one of the weakest units in the National Football League. Now, I mean, it was on tap when they could not even kick a field goal in this game against the 49ers. An absolutely terrible offense. The running game isn't coming along like we expected the Jets going into this year. Sean Green, a below-average first 4 weeks. The passing game is certainly one of the worst in the league. Santonio Holmes will be missed. Same with Darrelle Revis on the other side of the ball. The Jets do not have a corner on the other side. Kyle Wilson is now the starting corner for the Jets, and you saw just how bad this defense played when they have to go to backups in the secondary and backups at the receiver position.
Yeah, and I have to agree with you on that. And if Tim Tebow got to start, well, do you think that they would do better or worse?
If Team Tebow got the start, they would be a completely rejuvenized football team because when Tim Tebow, it's funny how this one of the worst statistic quarterbacks of all time, especially last year, Tim Tebow, when you plug him into the offense is better. Now, not better statistically, but better as a unit. You see them corral as a football team, and the big mistake seem to disappear. Now, with the New York Jets, you can point nearly to every play, and there's a mistake, and, sort of a lack of effort all across the offensive side of the ball. The New York Jets need Tim Tebow in order to make the playoffs. With Mark Sanchez, I would be hard-pressed to see the Jets win 6 or 7 games with Sanchez at quarterback. The first 2 wins are against the Bills and overtime against the Dolphins. Are you kidding me? Put in Tim Tebow right now, Rex Ryan. Otherwise, you're out the door.
Yeah, I heard Rex Ryan before that Niners game saying how competitive Jim Harbaugh was and said maybe this could be a win for us, and didn't really work out as planned. And we actually have an NFL update here that we will be discussing. 17-3, the Rams beat the Cardinals as the Cardinals entered 4-0. Rice, what do you think of this game? This was a huge game as the Niners maybe have a chance now to tie for the NFC West.
Well, Robert, I'm sure you would love to see the Cardinals loss. I'm sure this puts a smile on your face. At home, the Cardinals cannot get it done, and we saw the issues last week offensively. They were able to come back from that, and were able to make a drive late to win the game. Now, I don't have the stats in front of me with this game against the Rams, but Kevin Cobb, from what I've seen in that game, was not as good as we've seen the first 4 weeks. Now, the question for the Cardinals heading into this year was how was the quarterback position, once you are in a critical situation where you have to make a play, will the offense provide a spark? The first 4 weeks, not a question, putting up quite a few points per game. Now, the offense was towards the last of the league, and today we saw it, only putting up 3 points. And honestly, now the Cardinals are in trouble, not because they're out of the undefeated mark and out of the contention for the top spot in the division, but they're in trouble because they face a tough schedule forward. And right now, after getting getting beaten by an inferior opponent, now the Cardinals have to come back and put some wins together, because even though the Cardinals are 4-1 right now, this should be a long and tough road to the postseason.
And Rice, now this NFC West has just gotten a lot more competitive. Can you tell me about each team, how they have fought? You mean you see the Rams, Cardinals, Seahawks, and the Niners all doing well this season?
Now, Robert, the NFC West is not a laughing stock anymore. This comes from a few years ago when the NFC West was regarded as the worst in the entire NFL. Now, these four teams certainly getting it done, all 500 or above marks in the NFL. Now, that's something to give a round of applause to the NFC West. The Seattle Seahawks, an extremely competitive team at home. And you saw in that game against the Packers, it just takes one play for the Seahawks, to make some sort of an effort to win the game. And Russell Wilson, as long as he cuts down the turnovers, the Seahawks should be in contention for perhaps 8 or 9 wins this year. Now they have a tough road ahead, and they have to face the 49ers twice. But certainly, it'll be interesting to see how the Seahawks do. I see them posting up 7 wins. Same with the St. Louis Rams. You still have to face the Niners twice, but this is certainly a big win, defeating the 4-0 Cardinals. And as for those Cardinals, I see them perhaps getting 8 to 9 wins. Now, on the NFL Goal Line, I host that show on Spreaker.com. It's certainly, the Arizona Cardinals are not the offense that, puts up 30 points a game. They have to depend on their defense. The defense is dominant, but the Cardinals face a tough road yet. And, Robert, I think you could, easily agree. The Niners are the class of this division. Now, the Cardinals will be in contention for a wild card spot with 9 wins. I don't know if that's certainly going to get it done, but the Niners, 12 to 13 wins is expected. We saw them posting up that much during the beginning of the year, and right now they haven't disappointed except for that loss to the Vikings.
Yes, and I actually have the stats here. Sam Bradford went for 17 completions for 21 tries, 141 yards, 2 touchdowns. Kevin Kolb got sacked a lot in Thursday night, and it wasn't really pretty as he bled because his team could not defend him, and I think that was a huge key for the Rams as their defense stopped Kevin Kolb.
Yeah, we mentioned this, Robert, before the broadcast, that the key for the Rams, not only in this game but in the season, is for Sam Bradford to not only find his receivers who, coming into this game, there's no number 1 target over in St. Louis. Beanie Amendola is your top receiving threat. Are you kidding me? The Cardinals certainly had their hands full today, and the Rams only putting up 17 points, found a way to win. The Rams didn't really have a defense. At least St. Louis for this game was able to stop the Cardinals. But right now, as long as Sam Bradford plays like he did in this game, you'll have a really hard shot. The Rams will be a tough out trying to get into the postseason. Right now, the Rams at 3-2. No one expected them to be this good. St. Louis, you better watch out because they just beat an undefeated team in their house.
Yeah, and the Rams, they could come out of nowhere. I mean, they're 3-2 now. They're over the 500 mark, so be scared. And the Niners, they got a tough schedule. They have the Buffalo Bills. How do you think that game's going to plan out, Rice?
Absolutely in the Niners' favor. It would be a disappointment for San Francisco to drop another easy opponent. Now, the Buffalo Bills, they're not an easy out like you would expect because Fitzpatrick, he is a tremendous quarterback. Now, he doesn't have the talent around him, but in that game against the Patriots, that was somewhat single-handedly, that was somewhat one-sided, especially in the second half. Fitzpatrick put up some really impressive numbers with no interceptions to 4 touchdowns. Now, the Patriots aren't exactly a top 5 defense, but to put up some pretty good stats, Fitzpatrick and the Bills' offense will get things done. If the Niners' defense can handle that, though, the Bills are an easy out. Honestly, the Niners are a much better opponent, and I still see them winning the division, even though they're not undefeated right now.
Yeah, and I have to agree with you. Right. Even though they're not undefeated, they had a tough loss against the Vikings. We can all agree on that. That was a really tough loss for the offense and the defense, but the offense really screwed up against the Vikings. And you look at the teams, and the NFC West is going to be tough. But you look at it on the road, and let's move on here. Is Greg Jennings will be out against the Colts. Huge weapon for the offense. What do you think of this, Rice? Do you think this is just, oh, we could beat the Colts? They're not a very good team. Do you think it's going to be like that? Because I still think the Packers can win without Greg Jennings.
Yeah, right now the Packers are not as good of a situation as you would think. Greg Jennings aggravated a groin muscle that hampered him out of the first couple weeks of the year, and he did have a touchdown and aggravated it on that catch in the end zone against the Saints. But for Greg Jennings right now, the key is to get 100% because the Packers can do without him. Unlike a lot of teams, the Green Bay Packers are lucky to have 3 or 4 solid receiving threats, starting with Jordy Nelson out there, and, Donald Driver, you go down the list with James Jones. They have guys, Green Bay does, that can replace Greg Jennings. Now, you can't exactly replace Greg Jennings, but they can do a pretty good job in relief of Jennings. Now, right now, for the Green Bay Packers, they're facing an inferior opponent. The key for Jennings is just to get better because right now the Packers, they're still a good team. Now, they did lose a big one early. The Green Bay Packers aren't exactly a team that everyone sees as the top 2 or 3 team, perhaps under the radar. But right now for the Packers, they can make do without Jennings. And they have a pretty good couple of games right now where they can rest Jennings, make him 100%, and then have this Pro Bowl receiver ready for the postseason rather than having him in some meaningless regular season games when the focus is in the playoffs.
Yeah, I agree with you on that. I'm going to agree with you on that, as the Packers are the favorable team. And let's go to your top 5 rankings, Rice. I know we want to talk about this. What do you think's the number 5 team so far in the NFL?
Number 5 team in the NFL, and this team is flying under the radar, partner. At 2-2 on the year, no one expected them to drop 2 straight like they did. Now, it was by combined 3 points. And the New England Patriots at 500 on the year, certainly one of those teams. Bill Belichick has them ready for the playoffs. Now, there's some bumps in the road, but the Patriots have a better defense than last year. And that's the key in this year because not only is the offense more retooled in the receiver position, but now the Patriots on defense can contend with half to 3/4 of the teams in the NFL and can really shut them down. They have a linebacking core led by 2 rookies that can certainly stop the offense from traveling down the field. The secondary isn't as pathetic as it was in years past, and then obviously their front 4 can get after the quarterback. Right now for the New England Patriots at number 5, I don't have them any higher only because of the 2 losses that they have. But right now for New England, as long as they can get things going with the turnover margin and have their defense play well in the playoffs like they have in years past, the Patriots are a pretty good lock for being back in the Super Bowl. That's pretty lofty expectations. But what other team in the AFC other than the Texans, I'll get to them later, are even in contention with the Patriots right now? They're a dominant team. I put them at number 5.
And who would you put as number 4? And the Patriots, yeah, they had a tough loss against the Cardinals, but you look at the 2 losses and still, yeah, I would have to say they're the number 5. What do you think of number 4?
Number 4, another team under the radar at 3-1 on the year. This team, we mentioned, is completely dominant on offense, and as long as the defense can get after the quarterback, this team will be ready to go. They have a pass rusher that's leading the NFL in sacks. I'm speaking about the 3-1 Green Bay Packers. Now, last year, disappointing in the playoffs. They're hungry, partner. They're ready for another trip back to the Super Bowl, and this team at number 4, I see will make a very good shot at being a tough out in the postseason.
What's your number 3?
Number 3 team. Now, I don't have them higher. A lot of America has them higher on their power rankings, but right now I don't have the Atlanta Falcons any higher than 3. Even though they're 4-0, they are a interesting 4-0 because their defense still the no-namers. Their defense is not even top 10 in the league. Now, the offense can get after people, can score points in a hurry. But I don't think the Falcons, even though they're 4-0, I don't see them as having any momentum in the playoffs. And who knows, partner, with an easy schedule that they have, be ready for elite teams in the NFC.